Hi everyone, I hope you're back from your break, that you stretch your legs, that you're relaxed, maybe a nice beverage with you. I think we're now ready to move on to the third speaker of the day. And as you all know, design can come in various shapes. And our next talk will be all about designing a bot with its own personality. Well, during the design process, I don't know for you, but I feel like we often face this moment where we have to craft our own tools or our own approaches to make sure that it works in front of the problem we're trying to solve. And our next speaker will actually talk us through his craftsmanship on how he have built a tool and an approach, a process to solve his problems, to solve his project based on a concrete use case, which is a bot for ING Holland. ING Poland. Anyway, all in all, let's have a look at his next talk. And I would like to mention that he will bring emphasis on two aspects of his project. The first one is how complex the personality of a bot can be. And secondly, how important it is for designers to actually stay 2 steps ahead when designing a process or a project or a product, simply to make sure that it can be future-proof and relevant over time. Our next speaker that you already see on the screen here is an experienced designer that have been working in this field for over 15 years. He is currently a senior UX designer at ING Poland, and he's not only a very, very good designer, he's also a proud holder of 3 master's degrees, one in management, one in finance, and he also freshly graduated from an MBA, and I find it very impressive. Other than that, he is from Poland, and he also is very passionate about good beers. So passionate that he actually created his own beer glass. All in all, may I say, a man with taste. So I hope you're ready for a chat about bots with Bart Leonard. Hi, Bart.
Hi, hello everybody.
How are you doing? How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm really excited, a little bit stressed, but trying to kill it inside of me. So I'm pretty sure that this will go great, and I have a nice story to tell you. And thank you, Jade, for a really nice introduction, which is I don't know if I ever heard a better one about myself, so I really enjoyed it. And yeah, and I'm ready to go with the presentation.
The floor is yours.
I hope you enjoy it.
Enjoy it, Bart.
Thanks. Okay, so hello again, everybody. I move my camera. Hello again. The topic of my presentation is the difficulty and complexity of designing for the immediate future, which may sound a little complex itself, and it's a little bit misty, but we'll get to this later. What we're doing, like what Jade already mentioned in Poland, is we're designing a bot, like a complex bot idea to solve different customer problems through different channels. And we're designing the personality for this bot. And as I already said, I want to share a story of how we proceed with the process of this design. I also want to introduce you into the idea of designing for complexity, which is a retrospective-based model of shaping the process and a lot of learning by doing stuff. So I hope that you will find all this very interesting. So let's start where we started. So at the start of the process, at the start of the project, we had to define what the personality is, and probably all of you know some definitions of a personality, or you have it in head. But what we had to do is we had to define it in a proper way to be aligned with a process till the end, to reach a goal that we had with this project. So the personality is interaction with an outside world, whatever you describe the outside world is, and transforming of this interaction inside and shaping. And it's like an endless process. So there's an interaction, transforming and shaping, interaction, transforming, shaping, and shapes. So your personality grows. So basically, the idea is that personality is based on the time, experience, and transformation of this experience through time, and this is really powerful. So getting deeper into this definition, we had to define what exactly is behind of this. So we had to make a little decomposition of it, and we had to make it a little complex. So we decomposed it into a system. Like the easiest definition of system is different elements working together to reach the same goal. And this is what we wanted to do. And this is what we want of our personality to be. So we defined it, like we decompose it. We defined what are the elements of the system, and we try to recompose it into a well-working, like effectively working, like wise model that will make us through to the end of the process, and that will like make it valuable at the end. So what we did is we prepared, based on the elements of the system that we defined, we prepared a model which is future-proof. And I will go through this model like in a minute. But at first, what I want to say is that what is really great about this model, that it is future-proof. Like whatever happens in the future, like there are different elements of like systems put together in a model. So whatever happens in the future, we can be sure that our bot and our personality will follow the changes. So like the model is stable for whatever happens, but particular elements can evolve, can change, can be a little different in the future. But we know that if they change, we can follow and reshape the personality in the way that this changes. So like making it a little more simple. Let's start with the model is based on 3 layers. So there's a layer of interaction, there's a layer of rules, and there's a layer of standards. And going through the layers, the first layer of interaction is how the context of bot is based on a space of interaction. So there are interactions with brand, there are interactions with finance world, there are interactions with people, like service that we hold in ING. The second layer is a layer of rules, which is some internal rules that like every organization has, and the rules that we have to follow. So we have to like shape the context in another layer. So it's a strategy, or there are rules for communications, there are goals that we follow as an organization, there are values that we believe in, and also there are rules that we serve our customers through. So like this is another layer. The third layer are standards, and also as ING Poland, we're a part of a bigger groups. Like we're a part of a ING Global Group, and keeping to the standards like globally keep us aligned with like, for example, global ideas that we follow, or how we are, how people think about us as a global brand. And also we're part of some other bigger groups. Like, for example, we're part of the financial world, which also has some standards that we have to follow, or we're part of a designers world. There's also a big society, and there are some standards and rules that are globally known, and that is good to follow if to stay in aligned with what's going on like outside of the model. So this is basically how we shape the model, how we shape the system, how we shape it through like the definition idea of personality that I described at the beginning. And what we did next, like having this model, we thought this is really cool, and this is really something that we can base our research on. So we found the best people we have in ING Poland in particular areas, and asked them to make a deep research, like to do whatever they can, use all the methods and materials we have to gather information, to like get the research through. And we use a lot of different stuff, like a desk research, or we analyze the voice of customer a lot. We organize individual interviews, which we ask our customers how they feel about the situation, about the technology, about what we're working on at this level. Also, we got internal, a lot of reviewing internal standards, like it was in one of the layer of the model. Also, we have a lot of historical report analysis, lots of ideas. This is only a little bit of it, and we gathered a lot of information. And we had to, like, the most important, most difficult thing was synthesizing it through the model we designed and aligned with the definition of personality that I told you at the beginning. So, like, this was really difficult part. And another thing that was really nice and that I want to share with you is that we did. What we did was deep research on how technological leaders do. So, like, for example, by technological leaders, I mean the companies that already have a bot technology, that have advanced bot technology, so we can learn from them. So we also deep researched them. We found a lot of interesting information and a lot of inspiration. But what was there is one thing that was really nice and that opened our eyes a lot, and like was unexpected doors full of inspiration. Was like we found the Alexa Personality Designer job offer, and in this Alexa Personality Designer job offer, there was a lot of like different normal designer stuff they are looking for, but there were things like script writing, or there were things like character design, or there were things like game designing, or experience in comedy drama theater. So a lot of stuff that actually the digital product designers do not do a lot. And we realized that what we're doing, like the designing a personality of bot, is a lot different thing. Like it's we have to do it holistically. We have to look very wide to what the tools are available in other industries, like in movie industry or in the game industry. And we also get deeply into this and learned a lot about it. But what we ended with, like with this deep research and with synthesizing the information that we got through the elements of the model that we said before, was our own tool that we built. Because like in this way of processing, as I mentioned before, like designing for a complexity, which is based on retrospective look on the step before to make a good step forward. The best way was making our own tool, because we had such a lot of information, and it was like one step proved by another. So this one is really cool. Before I go through all the areas of this tool, of this canvas, which is also really great. I want to say that the real value of this canvas is that when we made an exercise and we filled it with really lot of data, we could actually double check it or triple check it. So we could check if this data is aligned with what we researched and what we synthesized, if this data works together as we defined it in the model, and if this data is aligned with the definition of personality that we did. So like we are super sure of the exercise that we did, of a draft. Actually, after doing this exercise, we got a draft of how the personality will look like. We could be super sure that it is all aligned with every step that we did before this. So going through this canvas, there are a lot of different areas shaped, but for example, you can find the superpowers, which we define like for example, people can only talk to one person, and bot can talk to 1,000 persons at a time. Or there are attributes which are more like into a brand of ING, which is a do your thing person, which is doing the best of his job and being here now, and like like this kind of thing, relationship model. So we had to decide if you want to be like more like a mentorship model or more like a partner model, and we had to decide how we define interaction through this model of partnership or mentorship. Language style, also knowledge and self-knowledge. So, for example, which part of knowledge should the bot be best of, and which is not important, like we're said in the financial world. So this is related to, for example, a layer of standards and being a part of a financial industry, and a lot of different things in here. Also, visual description, which help us a lot with some other things that I will tell in a minute. But the true and the real value of this canvas is that we could triple check it if it follows the ideas and the model that the model and definition that we made here. So having this field, we also look at it retrospectively and got to the idea that, okay, this is a great draft of bot personality, but the only people who know about how this works, which is based on a little bit complex process, are the people who are in the project. So as a bot, technology is going to be like a lot in future, and a lot of different people in organization are going to design this like on a different level, like managers and designers and like thinkers and idea makers and analysts and so on. We knew that we have to make a tool that will make them align with what we define the personality of bot. So like no strategy for scaling, no results, because this is what all organizations have to catch up, have to buy, and have to follow, and then we can be sure that we will do it properly. So what we did is we built a guide for bot personality, but we expanded it a lot. So it's much bigger than what we crafted in a canvas. And there are a lot of rules, history, examples, and so on. So a lot of stuff that we try to design. Like we wanted to, like when people get here and read it, they can take this knowledge and transform it into like design process. So when they sit on next to the when they sit on and try to build a bot journey or try to build a new conversation, like there's a lot of that kind of interface will be going on in the future. We have to be sure that they understand how to do it and they know how to connect and correlate the knowledge about the personality with the job they do. And what is really nice we did here, we also tested this tool, and we tested with we tested it with designers, because designers are were actually our main users, and this was a really cool experience because we got a lot of valuable information and we learned a lot about it and we reshaped it. So with this. It's better now, and it's easier to use and understand and use in practice. But we also got some like from the designers, as it always is. We also got some ideas how to like redesign it in total different way, which we didn't follow because we liked our process and we think and it is really powerful. So this is how we proceed. Another nice thing that I want to share with you is that making the bot visual, and what you see is not exactly the one that we made, but the most important idea about it here is that we didn't make it at first to like connect with our customers or with our users. Like, of course, we could do it so our customers get to know the technology, so they like it, so they feel nice about it. But this is not the most important thing. The most important, what we found out through the research, like when I was saying about Amazon, Google, Microsoft, or Apple data that we found, is that through the image you can improve the designer's effort. Like. When you work a lot, you have a lot of data and you have to put it into a practice, it's easier to connect it through the visual design than every time going back into the guide, reading it again and again, and trying to like figure out if it's right or wrong or how it connects each other. Like the visual representation is really great to help designers to connect the dots and to like have an like descriptive image inside through the visual side of this bot. So this is amazing, and this is also great that what we do. We also tested this. So if this visual representation is aligned with what we wrote in the guide. Another thing that we did is let's call it being ready for technology, not being ready. So this is also aligned with a definition of personality that we did, that it shapes and shapes and shapes. So it's a transformation of experience through time. And of course, we designed the personality like we want to see it in the final stage, but we are pretty sure and we know that technology is not ready for this. And also, we are not ready to implement like the design effect or our project effect directly like the end of like the final version. So we had to align it with a process of implementing and technology development, and we are also prepared for this, and we divided into 3 parts of like shaping and evolving of our bot personality, which is born, young, and adult. And as you can see, here are some ideas about these 3 stages of like bot development. So first one is an easy one, like answering questions and redirecting to proper ING experts. But adult one is a super developed one who get the context and situation, who can like who have already a relationship made through the relationship model that he took with the particular customers and so on. So like this is the way we want to do it, and this is the way how we prepared for the improving through the technology. Another thing, like the shape of tomorrow is how we shape it now. And what I want to say is that there's a lot of things going on right now in the world, like political stuff and environmental stuff and geographical stuff, and also is robotics and automation. And of course, you can say it's all for business, and it's true. As the main reason we make bots in Poland is because the organization grows and we have more and more customers, and these more and more customers have more and more issues, and the easiest way to solve it is like through the technology and the cheapest way. So like, of course, this is about money, but what we did during our process, as you maybe noticed on the screen with Canvas, there was a purpose definition. And we clearly defined the purpose of our bot, which is he's a colleague to other employees. He's there to help them with their job. He's there to do the most annoying one so they can develop themselves, so they can improve, so they can have a space to solve more complex problems, so they can make a step ahead in their careers. And of course, we can say that it's nice that we designed it that way, but we don't have a power to execute it this way. But at least we have a power to design it this way, and we have a power to push on execution. So, of course, it's always about the business, but our role is to like design it proper way, to make it also for people in the world, and like to push it and till the moment the execution will follow the design in 100% of it. So. This is it. I hope you like it, and I think now is a time for questions. So waiting for questions. Thank you.
So yes, Bart, thank you so much for your presentation. I really love how you crafted your own process, your own canvas to capture all your learnings from this experience. Maybe moving on to the questions, we're receiving a lot of comments and really good questions from the audience. So thank you all for sharing. First of all, you mentioned that there are other industries you also investigated in terms of bot personality. For the gamers and cinema fans in the audience, what famous bot personalities did you come across during your research?
Yeah. Oh, this is a really nice question, and I start with the best of mine, which is some of you probably watched the Jetsons. And the Jetsons, there is a really powerful bot which helps them in house, which is Rosie. And I love Jetsons because like Mr. Hanna and Sir Barbara are the biggest innovators in our world. Like everything we have right now and that we'll have in the future, they already invented in the 60s. And they also put a lot of attention, if you watch one of the movies and try to focus on the personality of Dozy, it's really powerful. And this is like, this is not a, they thought a lot about it, how to shape it and how to like make it live in a world that way they prepared. Another one, which is also one of my favorites that you probably know, is a Star Wars pair, C-3PO and R2-D2. This is a little more complex because they shape their personality also based on their own relation, but also two super powerful personalities, great to analyze. Like I think I read in one of the books. It was probably biography of George Lucas. He said that even their names, I think this is this book, but I read it somewhere that even their names are like a personality shape. So like C-3PO is more like emotional, and R2-D2 is more like. So this stuff, and like also for the gamers, you probably play the Ratchet and Clank. So I want like to. This is also a very great personality. So there are a lot of examples, but these are my favorites.
Yeah, indeed. Thanks for sharing. I love how you light up when you talk about your favorite bots. It's really really nice. Maybe the next question will be, what are your personal learnings from this project, and what would you have done differently if you had to do it again?
Okay, this is I think a little more. I have to think a second about it, but coming back to, I'm not sure if you hear me because I think I lost the.
I hear you perfectly.
Okay,
take your
you can
time.
hear me.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, what I introduced you to was a process of designing for complexity. So based on a lot of retrospective and making decisions based on this retrospective. So probably if we did this like next time, the path could be different because we could think differently, like retrospectively on every second step that we made. But I think what is good and what we would get to is the same result or close result. Maybe we'll shape like different tools or go a different way, but this we'll get to the point. But I wouldn't change anything because this is really exciting to like shape your own process and use your brain like extremely hard to find out which way is the best and how to define it and how to follow things thing by thing. So I just want to encourage you to like do it. Of course, there are a lot of great tools that we can use and they are faster, but sometimes it's good to take time and like go for it.
Nice. So really do your thing, learn by doing. That's the key message here. Maybe another question from the audience. How did you come up with the layers for your model? The ones you were mentioning earlier.
Yeah. This was like we took it was a set of brainstorm sessions with the experts from ING, and we were thinking of like, okay, so what is the kind of world of interactions that is inside an ING and outside of ING. So we wanted to set a context, like the model is a context for bot, and context for bot is World of Finance, ING, and like all the different elements that make the
The elements that build
experience.
up around?
Okay, sorry, I forgot. So what made the experience? So like we made the definition of personality. Like this is a transforming of an experience. So we had to define what is the experience in context of like everything we can imagine about our ING, and we brainstormed the different areas, and then model, then shape, then research it, and then like follow to the next steps. Yeah.
So starting with the definition on what you want, and then building up to the layers. Okay.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, I understand. And yeah, that was already the last question. Maybe a few comments, so you already received a few feedbacks. Very nice, love the visuals. Thank you for the great talk, great presentation. So I think the audience is really enjoying the talk. And since you're a beer lover, I have seen a few feeds coming by, and I heard that the Belgian team is already starting to drink their beer. So I'm very jealous that they're starting without me. So anyway, I think we can move on to the next talk. Thank you so much, Bart, for putting yourself out there today, and see you soon.